If you're interested in learning how I launched Zim Excellence, then you're in luck. Sign up for my podcast workshop and learn how it's easier and more affordable than ever to start a podcast. Also, grab yourself a copy of my podcast resource guide, which covers industry terminology, suggested tech setup, in addition to countless free online resources to support your podcast journey. Just head to wongai.com/podcast creation. That's wongai.com/podcast creation. The link will also be down in the show notes. Now, let's start the show. Welcome back. I don't know about you, but I'm ready for part 2. So what gave y'all the idea to start the podcast? Also, where'd the name come from? I know Je ne m'en layers, but like, was that the first name y'all came up with? Like, oh, we're gonna call it It's Layered. And like, who came up with the I want to know all the things.
I'll let Rimby take this one.
Oh gosh, I was waiting on you. Honestly, like, as you know, our friendship has been long distance for a long time, and a lot of our conversations last for hours and beyond the catch up, the typical things that girlfriends talk about. We've always spoken about our existence. I think we both feel that tension you were talking about, Wongai, of belonging to two worlds, and that that friction it brings, and loving our home and where we come from and our identity, but also grappling with what it means. As that's I feel you when you all that you're saying. I can relate 1,000%, because these are conversations we have all the time, and not fitting in a mold and being this like weird myriad of different things. I think we've always felt that. And so we'd have different conversations about all these topics and like really just dissecting, and just like, oh, it's layered. Like, it's so layered. And that was just a term that would just always come up in conversation. And so through these chats, I would be like to Amanda, oh, we should start a podcast. Like, I would literally just say that because I'm like, we want to talk about this and kind of hear other people's perspectives, or know if we're the only ones who feel this way, if that makes sense.
Being crazy.
Yeah, and I said it, a couple of times, and then Amanda was like, when you're ready, bet, let's do it. And I was like, okay. And then she was like, so when are we starting this podcast, subsequently? And I was like, yeah, we're going to do this, and we're like, yeah. And then we're like, what do we call it? And then Amanda was like, well, we always say it's layered, right? So Je ne m'en layers. And that's, it literally was born from conversations in a friendship, and just, yeah, I don't know, Amanda, you can.
Yeah, no, for sure. And hoping people can relate. Like, we can't be the only ones feeling this way. And it almost feels like sometimes when you go home and try have these conversations, people who are in Zimbabwe, it feels like you're being like, when you see someone being pretentious, because I'm like, oh my God, when I go overseas and I'm waiting in line for my visa, and they're like, dude, at least you're going. You know what I mean? Like, and then when you're here and you're like, oh my gosh, the struggle to get a visa. And then people are like, what's a visa? So it's like, we didn't really.
Exactly.
It was like, I need someone to understand. So I feel like, a lot of our listeners are in the diaspora. And I think that's because, not that it's made for them exclusively. No, it's made for anyone and everyone. But I think the relation with that is much higher for them, because it's a safe space where we can have these conversations. Like, okay, let's talk about classism. Back home, when I never used to talk to a guy who went to this kind of school, but here now in Australia, he's my best friend. Like, why? Why couldn't I be best friends with him back home? So it's like those kind of things that are, it's a space to try bridge the gap, I think, between. Yeah, exactly. It's been very enlightening having a podcast, that's for sure.
I love that. I love all that you're doing. I love that you exist, because it wouldn't be much fun if like Zim Excellence was like the only one, because I'm seeing life through one lens and y'all are seeing it from a completely different lens. And it's just so great to have more of us and more of our voices. So it's not like we are speaking for everyone, because, that's not fair. And there's no way to truly speak for everyone. I also think that your existence in this space is so important, because I believe the statistic is something like women make 50% of all podcast listeners, but less than 50% of podcast shows are actually hosted by women. And then even less than that are hosted by women of color. And of that number, Black women.
Yeah.
So, and let's not even touch on
Yeah,
African
and
women and
Zimbabwean women.
Zimbabwean women and all of
Yeah.
that.
Don't even get me started. And
Yeah.
it's so boring, like, to live in a whitewashed world. Like, it's just like, or male dominated. It's like, can we get some like
Yeah.
variation here?
Nice.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, just to feel relate. And I think that's it. That's why I listen to podcasts. That's why it's just to feel like, yeah, I can relate to that, or either be entertained or feel like you can relate or educated in a sense. And I mean, I know so many dope Black African Zimbabwean women and people who are different to me, do you get what I mean? And it's like, why don't I feel like Issa Rae, she started like, the awkward Black girl.
Yes!
Because she was like, she knows so many like dope people, but she wouldn't see them like represented in her on TV, wherever, and so she created a show that showed her friends. And I'm like, yeah, like, exactly. Like, why aren't we there? So that's why we're here.
It's important that we're having this crossover episode.
Yay!
I'd say it's part 1 because I'm gonna be on y'all's.
Yeah.
That's gonna be the part 3, y'all. It's important that this is happening because it's important to have examples of Black women supporting each other and not being in catfights like Real Housewives of Atlanta, my guilty pleasure, and just women in general, all of these reality shows like The Bachelor and all of that. It's important that there are examples of women supporting each other and Black women supporting each other without it turning into a whole catfight and wigs being pulled and all of that, right? It's also important to be supporting each other as Zimbabweans because I feel like there's often been this like belief system of, oh, I can't share my good fortune or my success with someone because they'll be jealous or they'll put a curse on me. They'll go to Nanga and do this and all of that.
1,000%. And it's like there's only room for one, or there's only room for certain people.
It's so funny. We accept like 20 white shows that are showing us the exact same thing. And we're like, yeah, that's fine. And watch season after season. But when it comes to Black or people of color productions or creative outlets, we have this sense of tokenism, which really, maybe it did come from colonialism, but we're also perpetuating it because we're just making it like, there can only be one podcast. There can only be one. But who said, like, why is it other people allowed to have 20 of these and all of them be successful? But when it comes to us, like, we immediately think, there can only be one. I mean, there can only be one Beyonce.
Hail the queen.
Yes, Queen B.
We do admit to that. Only one Beyonce, but there's a lot of other, singers out there who can be, So it's like, I think it's like that. And like when we started talking and vibing one guy, I loved that it's like, it's always supportive. It's a community, and this is what this is. You share ideas, you help each other up, and that's the whole thing. And I think people look at it like, this is my thing, I can't share it. And it's like, there's a difference between IP and there's a difference between, having a community. And I think this is having a community. We've got our podcast that does what we're doing. You've got your beautiful podcast that does what it's doing. But it shouldn't have to be competing. It can be in the same space.
Just think of yourself as a consumer of content. Like how I wait for Black movies to come out on Netflix. Like, how are we still here? Like, how is it still a thing where you're counting down? You're like, yo, did you see this new show that's come out? Do you get what I mean? And it's like, bruh, shouldn't we be like, oh my gosh, I was watching this. And then, oh my God, do you get what I mean? So like, there's absolutely room for everyone. And I think it's like, come on, people, like, it's okay. And the sharing of knowledge or helping each other, ain't nothing wrong with that. If you're good, you're good. Like, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. Like, I don't know.
No.
I just get tired.
2 things. The first thing I wanted to say is, I don't want to be over here like turning turning my eyes away from like it's layered to be like, oh no, it's layered exists. I can't see what they're doing because I'll be influenced, or like they hate me, or I'm in competition with them, and all of that stuff. And at the same, and then the second thing I want to say is different audiences are receptive to different voices. So we could be saying the exact same thing, but one person might find the way it's being said on It's Layered more, I guess, they might be more receptive to how it's being said on It's Layered. And on my show, they might think, Salad, like she's very pretentious, and might not be receptive on my end.
Or maybe people just want to hear it said from two different perspectives too. Or
yeah.
The same way we have like 5 actors and actresses that we like, we don't just have one and follow one. We have so many that we're like, oh my gosh, so why can't it be like that with, with what Black creatives are doing? We can like it all and it's fine, So even from what Rimbi was saying, from a consumer point of view, if I've got enough money to go to this movie, I've got enough money to go to another movie. So it's like, I can give you my time. I can give you, if you do quality stuff, it's fine. And I think people always compete when you don't.
And I hate it. Like, as a consumer, it's like when I'm like, oh, I've listened to all the podcasts that, like, when you finish, like, it's such a draining thing. And then, like, when you go to the Discover pages and it's just all these, like, white shows, and I'm just like, why? Like, give me something. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, it's so frustrating, like, having to search high and low for what you can relate to. And I think of like, if I'm listening to a podcast on mental health, like if there's an issue I'm currently like working through, I might want to listen to different perspectives or different people, or have it kind of, before I truly receive it, just like with Black Lives Matter. We didn't say to someone, just go and watch 12 Years a Slave and you understand slavery. Do you get what I mean? Like, there are other resources, there are other ways to understand it. You can watch Boys in the Hood, but then you can also watch
Love Jones or Brown Sugar.
Love Jones.
Because it's important to see Black people in love and doing the exact same thing that Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks be doing in the movie.
Yes,
exactly.
And not be all from the hood, please. Yes.
It's important to see rich Black women being like, I don't want to date him. Like, I'm too busy, my career.
Yeah.
Yes. I don't want to just be the best friend. And we can be lead actresses, not just the best
you ladies
friend.
Understand.
Like, I want to be the
you
lead.
Understand. So that's what I'm saying. It's like, I get it worked up because it's something I clearly feel strongly about, to say the least.
But I will give credit to the Black Lives Matter movement for that. I think it cracked open these conversations, before people thought it was like not really. Even the whole sense of privilege. Like, I had a lot of white Australians come up to me and they were like, I always thought privilege was tied to money. Like, I'm not rich. So when you guys used to say, oh, you guys got privilege, I'm like, well, I'm not rich. So I'm not, you're not talking about me. But now I was like, no, even just waking up or the cop walking past you and you not hesitating is privilege. Like that's what I'm talking about. And it was like good to have those conversations finally and people to get it finally, what we were actually trying to say all along.
There's like 5 different types of privilege. Like Lavia Ajayi posted something months ago on Instagram. And I think she like had, I can't remember like how many out of the list, but she had like a lot. And I was like, I'm curious, I want to do the thing. And I had like the same number as her. So there's racial privilege, so like white privilege. And then there's the privilege of being heterosexual. And then there's the privilege of being able-bodied, which means not having a disability and being able to go around and not needing, those extra systems. And then there's the privilege of being cis, so not identifying as transgender and all of that stuff. Oh, and then there's the privilege of education. Yes.
So true.
And Black people don't think we have privilege so too. You classism again.
And colorism.
Yeah.
Yes, can we go there?
So what was the hardest thing about starting the podcast for y'all?
I think for me, I knew nothing about podcasts. Rimbi had to like thrust me into this world. I think I'm a visual person, very visual. So like to sit there and like listen to someone just sounded like snooze fest to me initially. But then, like, I think once I started getting into it and actually listening to the voices that I could relate to, I was like, oh, I actually like this. And I usually use it now when I'm doing errands I don't want to do. So, like, cleaning around the house or whatever. So I think for me, it was just buying into the community, you know, like, what is podcasting? What's it about? Is it like a radio show? Is it like, what are you talking about? And I think once I understood what it is and wrapped my head around it and its intent, then I came on board more with Rimbi. I think that's when I started saying to Rimbi, are we going to do this? Because then I was like, oh, actually, we could actually, I see what she meant. I see the vision she had. That was what it was like for me, starting with actually getting to know about
I've always been someone, if I don't know, I'll figure it out. I'll Google it. I'll find a way. I can't say there was a hard part. I think maybe on a more internal level, there's a question of like, do you have something to say? Obviously, you know you have something to say, but it's like, will people be like, but why are you talking? Do you get what I mean? So that kind of tension of like, who are you?
The imposter syndrome.
Who are you to feel like you have something to say? Maybe, and taking that leap to open your mouth and because when you're having the conversations privately, it's great, right? You're friends, like it's you know, it's a safe space. But when you start sharing, it's like, how will it be received? But then we just did it anyway. Like, as much as that, you know, I've always been that person. I've never been afraid to do things that scare me or are a bit intimidating, because the thing I would hate most is what if I had tried. That's one of the things that drives me nuts. So I don't really I think maybe that was the hardest, quote unquote, part, but I think it's just been a real pleasure to work with Amanda, to work with a friend, and like we vibe and understand each other. We get each other. We know where we help. It's been a privilege, and I think we are fortunate and lucky and blessed to have that.
Who would you say your ideal audience is for the podcast?
I would say for me personally, and Rimbi probably has her own take on this, I think for me it's for the girls who've left home. Maybe not necessarily even, they can still be in Zim, but you always feel like an oddball, or you always feel like you're not quite what everyone expects you to be, you know. Zim is very patriarchal, very traditionalist kind of society. And I think we always fought against that. And then we always thought, oh, we're crazy for doing it. So I think it's not crazy, but it's like for those people who feel like they don't belong, whether you're in Zim or not. For me personally, like, it's just a safe space to just talk, have bands, laugh, and like talk about, you know, all the things we face straddling two cultures.
I have to agree with Amanda. I think it's for the outliers. I remember as a kid growing up, I would look at and be like, why didn't someone tell me like this is what life is like? Or why didn't someone tell me how to deal with a situation like this? Or, you know, those feelings where you just really feel like the oddball and kind of, you know. So definitely for that girl who's like, wait, what? Am I like crazy? What's going on? To say like, it's okay to be different. I think I've always known and been different since I was very young, in my family and just in general. And I think it's also for the people we encounter in this life we lead in the diaspora. You know, colleagues, I've had former students message me telling me they've been listening to the podcast, like just to help them get a true sense of what it means for us being Black, being African, being Zimbabwean, being out here in this world. What does it mean? And I also do that for them, because it's like, let's show you who you are. You don't always get to see who we are aside from World Vision ads and those, you know, like this is who we are.
That's so dope. What would you say about your friend, about your co-host, about your collaborator for the listeners? Amanda, if you could share some beautiful words about Rimbi and what she means to you and her existence and her friendship, what would you say?
We would have to probably finish all the rest of the episode with me saying all the beautiful things I have to say about Rimbi. Rimbi, I don't have sisters, yeah? I grew up in a house full of boys. So Rimbi has been a soul sister to me. Like, just that person I know a constant in my life. It's so hard because, I mean, sometimes you take it for granted when you have someone so close and you vibe with them. You sometimes don't take a moment to actually say, thank you for being you, And I guess this is my moment to say to Rimbi, thank you for everything we've done together, everything we've spoken about, talked through. I mean, she's also a prayer warrior of mine, which is very important, especially when you live far from home and in an atheist society. It's nice to have that person who just gets it, through and through. And Rimbi always does. And even if she doesn't really understand, she allows my vision or my way of seeing things to exist. It's not like, it's absolute. I think this and there's nothing else. She's always so open and so gracious with her time and energy, and I love that about her. So kudos to you.
Oh my goodness,
you're
you
amazing.
Want to wet the tissue. You want us to cry. Well, I was like, okay, so we're gonna make people cry at the end of this episode. Get that tissue.
I know, right? Like, I'm like, oh.
If I can share words about Amanda, I don't know. Where do you begin? I think she's a rider. They say ride or die, but we are not dying. Consistent.
Why are we dying?
She's a friend who's seen me at the lowest of lows in my life and never changed. When you're at the lowest part of your life, you know who's there for you and who's not. And she's always been cheering me on, supporting me, hands down. She's my voice of reason. She's like my snap back to reality. Like if I'm being too hard on myself, because I am, and that's anyone who knows me knows I'm, really critical, and she kind of snaps me back. She's a support system. She's an advisor. She's, but she's also, Amanda is a go-getter. She's focused, but she has a soft heart. When you see her, you think like she's just a badass B, like she's, but I've seen her gentle soul and her love for people. She's a connector. She's one of one. And yeah, I don't know. I could go on. It's just one of those things like, yeah, we're so soft. Oh my, what happened? Come on.
I love it.
But it's one of those relationships where I always say, life is hard, but I'm so grateful I get to do it with people like Amanda. I'd rather her in my corner than 10,000 friends or whatever.
I'm loving this love fest. I'm in my feels. I'm going to be like, I love you, friend, at the end of this.
You need to be calling the homies.
Hug your friends tighter. Oh, yes.
Okay. Lightning round. What are y'all zodiac signs? I'm a Capricorn.
Libra.
Leo.
Are y'all early birds or night owls?
Early bird.
What is a time zone? We don't know.
When I'm awake, but it takes me a while to get up, and I sleep not early, but pretty early.
Today is a great day to start your own podcast. Whether you have a message you want to share with the world, or you think, ooh, it could be fun to have my own talk show like Wongai, getting started is easier than ever. Here at Zim Excellence, we use Buzzsprout, which is hands down the easiest, most affordable, and best way to launch, promote, and track your podcast. Start for free and list your show on directories like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more within minutes. Podcasting isn't hard when you have the right partners, and the team at Buzzsprout is passionate about helping and teaching you to succeed. Just check out their YouTube videos. They are filled with tons of information. So join over 100,000 podcasters already using Buzzsprout to get their message out to the world. Sign up today using the link in the show notes or go to wongai.com/podcast creation, and you'll get a $20 credit if you sign up for a paid plan. It also helps support the show. So go ahead, sign up for Buzzsprout, and keep me posted on your new podcast. Now back to the show.
Do y'all have a favorite movie or an album from this past year or award season?
The Black Messiah was really good,
cool.
I think, for this past year.
I think for me it's The Photograph, the movie The Photograph, Easter Rain.
I was
Yeah.
in that. I wasn't in that, but my voice was in
Wait,
that.
what?
I can sense
Please
you. That's
tell
why I
us.
can sense the Zimbabwean
Yes,
in there.
it was my first SAG coin. And I was like, wow, I can make how much money in 2 hours? Amazing.
What did you do?
I did the the additional dialogue recording. I did the ADR because there's scenes that are in London and they did them in America. They just needed people to do the British voice. And so I did.
Wow. You know, I think I just loved it because it was so, like, sometimes you get so used to seeing black love struggles, but in a way where it's like, you cheated on me, or, you know, I don't know, like, it just felt like that cast could have been, had that movie been shot 10 years ago, it would have had a white cast.
For sure.
You know what I mean? But then, so I just like that we can still do a story like that and be people
It's
of
so
color.
interesting, Amanda, because now I think about it and I see it. I feel like you kind of resemble Stella McGee, the director.
Really?
Oh, she's dope. I like her. I like her.
I'll take that.
Yeah.
Sweet. Do y'all have a favorite holiday? And by holiday, I mean like Christmas, New Year's.
Christmas, I like go. I don't know what it is, but I'm big on it.
I'm a Christmas baby.
I love
so
it.
I was basically convinced at a young age that Mariah made that album for me.
Oh,
wow.
I love that.
Wow. Why not? If not, why not?
Yes. I don't have a favorite holiday. Any holiday, as long as you're not going
Bring
to
it
work.
on. Yeah, bring it on.
Okay, if y'all could have any superpower, what would it be? Amanda first.
I'm sweating. Being invisible.
Okay, Rumbi?
Teleporting.
Nice. Do we like out of a franchise, Avengers, Star Wars, Harry Potter?
Avengers.
I'm a DC girl, so the Dark Knight
Woo!
series.
And y'all friends?
Well, don't do that with the other friends. It's okay.
Favorite Zimbabwean musician?
Chiwoniso?
Favorite childhood snack when y'all would go to the tuck shop with your monies?
Nothing beats a frisbee for me.
Probably Spuds.
Spuds? Okay.
Yeah.
Controversial question time. Mazoe orange versus Mazoe green.
Orange.
Green. Ruby!
And you guys are
Cream
friends.
soda. Cream soda.
Like, what? The OG.
I find the orange just, you know, don't mix it on properly.
The other one is like you can have it in a freeze it. Mazoe cream soda, you can do freeze it, but like you need the OG.
Yeah, well, you know, I like freezes, so it tracks.
Yeah, that's fair.
I even like the purple Mazoe. Oof, that was clutch as well.
Really? I like the peach. The peach.
Oof, that was anything that's not the original. Clearly I like remix.
Okay. This is a power statement. I am Zim Excellence because blank. Rumbi, go first.
I am Zim Excellence because I know no bounds, no boundaries, no limit. Like, I am Zim Excellence because I know I can do whatever I'm going to do.
You and me, I see you. Because I am Zim Excellence. I am Zim Excellence because I can do anything, I can be anything, and I am whatever I want to be.
Yes.
That is why I am. I think Zimbabweans, we're so talented and we undersell ourselves so often because of everything we faced, but we got a lot of talent, y'all. We need to realize that talent.
We the ish. We are.
Ladies.
We're everywhere.
Look at you. One guy just making us feel badass as we just.
I know. Now we're like,
this is what I do. This is why people are friends with me.
Yeah.
I'm all about women's empowerment. Ladies, I'm trying to say my Beyonce voice when she's in Homecoming. She's like, ladies.
Oh,
ladies.
Yeah. Yes, Miss Carter.
As we wrap up, I would love it if you could share a message with our listeners, as well as letting them know where they can continue to follow your journey. If you want to shout anyone out, you can do so. And, let us know all the things. You don't have to spell it out. It'll be in the show notes. But I've been loving this Love Fest. It was such an honor and a privilege to celebrate Beyonce's birthday with you. Take it away, ladies.
Well, you can obviously find us on all the podcast platforms as It's Layered. You can obviously find us on Instagram. That's where we're most active with any listeners who want to give us feedback, comments, or anything at obviously It's Layered again. And what else? Where else are we
on
at?
Twitter,
Twitter?
It's Layered Pod. We're on Facebook, It's Layered Podcast, I think. And Amanda's selling herself short. She's also a stylist on I Am Whom I Am Instagram. So check her out there. Yeah, and you can also, I mean, all our information is on It's Layered anyway, like our handles and stuff. So check us out there. The Black African Women. We've also got a special something coming out with them. So check them out too. Yeah.
Any last parting words?
For me, it would definitely be continue doing you. Like, I think a lot of times as Zimbabweans, we don't get time to pat ourselves on the back. And sometimes you need to take a moment, enjoy the vista, and keep going. You keep going. The fight it never ends. But what you're doing, keep pushing, keep making sure people know your name wherever you go. Keep making sure you know they're Zimbabwean wherever you go. Be proud of who you are, regardless of anything. We're all here to support you.
For me, it would be you have every right to be in the rooms that you are in. Don't let anyone make you feel less than because of a passport you hold or a background you have. You are there because you are deserving. You are meant to be there. And we all have a right to take up space in this world. We all have space to share our voices. And Zimbabwe is taking over. Say?
Yes. Tashika.
We here.
I love it so much. Thank you, ladies. Before anyone's mad at me being like, but we didn't hear about the stylist, but we didn't hear about the social media manager. It's okay, y'all, because they're going to be back separately. There's only so much we can talk about as a trio.
For sure.
So they will be back. Do not worry about it. Thank you so much, ladies, for sharing of your time, your friendship, your memories, your warmth, your insight, and just all your badassery and your bad B-ness on Queen Bee's birthday, 40th birthday.
It's only right. It's only right. And Wangai, before we go, we just wanted to say thank you for, being who you are and for doing something that is so needed, celebrating us as Zimbabweans. We celebrate you and the work you are doing. We're cheering you on. We are in your corner. We cannot wait to have you on It's Layered. Own your story. Like, as I said, don't let anyone tell you different. And your voice is valid. You is smart. You is kind. You is important. Okay.
You're important. Yes.
Don't apologize.
Yes. Such a beautiful soul. Yeah. Such a beautiful soul. Don't ever apologize. Don't ever feel small or
keep going.
Keep going. Yeah. We love it. We want to see it more and more.
See you do the things you're gonna do, and as you take over, like everyone will catch up later. Let them catch up. It's okay. You just keep going, eyes on the prize, and you'll get there. Yeah. Kudos to you.
Can't wait to have you on It's Layered.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you, Rumbi. Sure. Thank you, Amanda. So, y'all, this was part 1 of the Zim Excellence It's Layered crossover episode. Keep your eyes and your ears peeled for part 2 on the It's Layered podcast coming soon. And you know what you have to do? You have to go and subscribe so you make sure you get it when it's out. Thank y'all. Have a great week. Thank y'all so much for coming to the party. Majita Tatenda Siabonga. Nah, for real. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Zim Excellence. If you found value from this episode, please share it with a friend and go ahead and subscribe, rate, and review. If you send me a screenshot of your review, I'll make sure to give you a shout out on future episodes. Feel free to tag us on Instagram at Zim Excellence Podcast. And if you identify as Zimbabwean, I want to hear your story. So go ahead and email zimexcellencepodcast@gmail.com. Till then, have the best week and stay Zim Excellent.